Good evening, Little Masters, and welcome to episode 195 of the Prancing Pony podcast, where we are immensely interested in everything Merry and Pippin have to say.
But we are not going to be asking them about the Entwives.
Fair enough.
Folks, go ahead and pull up a bench in the common room. I'm Sean Marchese, the real-life Lord of the Mark, and I'm here with the man of the West, who is not altogether on anybody's side, Alan Sisto.
Well, that's because nobody is altogether on my side, if you understand me.
A lot of good reasons for that, I have to say.
There are a lot of good reasons. I don't know that I would be on my side if I had anything to say about it. But, folks, today we're going to be talking about the third part of Treebeard. That's chapter 4 in book 3 of The Lord of the Rings. This is when Treebeard asks for news and gets all fired up about Saruman.
Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome. Here at the Prancing Pony podcast, we are working our way through J.R.R. Tolkien's Legendarium, a few pages at a time.
We study the details, make connections to other writings, talk about our favorite themes.
And we have a whole lot of fun along the way. So, we're glad you've joined us.
And we hope you'll be glad you joined as well.
Indeed we do. But before we get to tonight's chapter discussion, it's time for our intro segment, and we're going to be doing something that we haven't done in a while. If you're wondering what, well, it's time for a Tolkien quote of the day. Alan, what do you have for us tonight?
Well, we'll be reaching the halfway point in Treebeard tonight, and that got me thinking about, well, trees. And I'd recently reread my absolute favorite of Tolkien's non-legendarium works, Leaf by Niggle. So I'm going to read a longish passage from that, but it's the first few lines from this passage that we're going to focus on tonight. He was the sort of painter who can paint leaves better than trees. He used to spend a long time on a single leaf, trying to catch its shape and its sheen, and the glistening of dewdrops on its edges. Yet he wanted to paint a whole tree, with all of its leaves in the same style, and all of them different. There was one picture in particular which bothered him. It had begun with a leaf caught in the wind, and it became a tree, and the tree grew, sending out innumerable branches and thrusting out the most fantastic roots. Strange birds came and settled on the twigs and had to be attended to. Then all round the tree, and behind it, through the gaps in the leaves and boughs, a country began to open out, and there were glimpses of a forest marching over the land and of mountains tipped with snow. Niggle lost interest in his other pictures, or else he took them and tacked them onto the edges of his great picture.
Man.
Man.
Just hearing you read that, it reminds me, it's been way too long since I've read that story.
Such a great story.
And
really is.
It reminds me of the one-man show that we saw in
Birmingham
for Tolkien 2019.
Fantastic.
Richard Medrington, who we actually managed to get on the show.
Yeah, one of the panels.
For that episode, right. Yeah. And oh man, that was such a great performance. And it's just such a powerful work.
It is.
Now, for anybody who hasn't read Leaf by Niggle, we probably need to explain it to you a little bit. Mm-hmm. Despite his professed cordial dislike for allegories, Tolkien was actually very, very good at writing them.
Oh, yeah.
And this was one of them, or it was almost one, I guess, with Niggle sort of representing Tolkien himself.
That's right. I mean, it's not fully allegorical, though, if Tolkien's own words are to be believed. In letter 241 to his Aunt Jane Neve, and he sent this letter along with a copy of Leaf by Niggle to her, he said, "It is not really or properly an allegory so much as mythical. For Niggle is meant to be a real mixed-quality person, and not an allegory of any single vice or virtue." But then he admitted, of course, some elements are explicable in biographical terms, and then later he discusses his, quote, own internal tree, the Lord of the Rings, that he described as growing out of hand and revealing endless new vistas.
So that's helpful, actually. First of all, not really or not properly an allegory. Okay, it's still mostly an allegory, and I think even Tolkien would admit that, but you know how he is in his letters. He kind of plays around with things a little bit, doesn't he?
He does.
But I like the idea that it's mythical and not a straight allegory, because I think there is certainly some truth to that Niggle really does emerge as more of a person and not an allegory of a specific trait.
Right.
You can't really say that Niggle represents a particular trait or like Tolkien said, a vice or virtue. I mean, obviously he's known for niggling and that's his name, but there's a lot more to him than that.
There's a lot more, yeah.
But I think what's the most helpful about that is how Tolkien discusses his own internal tree being the Lord of the Rings. So if there is some allegory there, then maybe the tree of the story stands in for the Lord of the Rings.
I think so.
And so I think whether we view it as an allegory or whether we view it as a mere autobiography or partial autobiography, we see Tolkien's assessment of his own creative process here.
Oh, yeah.
As he's describing Niggle's artistic process, he's describing his own creative process in writing The Lord of the Rings.
Absolutely.
And I gather from this bit about he can paint leaves better than trees, I gather from that he believed himself to be detail-oriented, but not too good at the big picture. I mean, at least that's how I read that. What do you see in that?
Yeah, I see a little bit of that. I'm not sure if he's trying to, I mean, I don't know that he's so much denigrating his ability to paint the trees, so to speak, to write the broad story, as much as he's pointing out that it's very easy for him to get caught up in the detail of each individual leaf, right? He wants to do a whole tree where every leaf, I should say, is individually detailed in full. The shape, the sheen, the glistening of dewdrops on its edges, all of them in that style, but all of them different. So he wants to really drill down and create an entire set of stories.
He wants every leaf to be perfect.
Yes.
I kind of like the way you're going with that. It's not like he feels like the tree is lacking in any way.
No.
He just wishes that every leaf on the tree could be as detailed as a particular one that he's spent a lot of time on.
And the problem with that, though, is the tree keeps sending out these branches. So there's no way to possibly do that.
Well, so let's talk about that from the perspective of the inner consistency of reality, which is kind of where I'm going with this, because the way I see it, if the tree is Lord of the Rings, then the leaves of the tree are maybe those details that he spent so much time on, right? So like things like the languages, the maps, the textual ruins, the timelines, all those details that make the tree seem much more real and give it that,
absolutely,
that inner consistency of reality, allow you to engage in that secondary belief. So what I'm thinking about as we're talking about this is, did Tolkien wish that he could spend as much time and attention to detail on every single aspect of the story as he did on things like the languages, the maps, the textual ruins?
I think so. Yeah, I think he wanted every single aspect of the story to be as rich and full as the languages, as rich and full as all of the history that
so we're talking about like every character fleshed out. Like he probably wanted to write a full backstory for Hama, the door ward.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, for everybody.
And I guess if all that exists, if he can do all that, then he creates a story with an infinite inner consistency of reality. It'd be as fully fleshed out as the primary world, but you can't do that. No person could do that.
No.
And I wonder if that was a source of constant frustration for Tolkien, that he could never make his secondary world as fully fleshed out as the primary world, because who could?
To that level of standard, right? And yet, as he did that, he started to see the country begin to open out, and glimpses of the forest and of the mountains tipped with snow. So even though he wasn't able to paint those leaves to the degree that he wanted all across the entire tree, maybe a few leaves were painted like that. As this tree was developing, he did start to see the world filling out behind it. Yeah. And then I love that little bit at the end that he took other pictures, quote, other stories, and tacked them onto the edges of his great picture. Hello, Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely.
I mean, there are other bits like that too.
Other ideas that he had that he just said, you know what, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use it over here.
Yeah. It's that homebrew thing we've talked about so many times.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that The Hobbit ended up in that place because he didn't start
Absolutely.
out writing The Hobbit as part of the same world that the fall of Gondolin took place in.
That's correct.
But as he's writing it, he realizes, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and put some references to Gondolin in here. I'm going to put some references to the necromancer and things like that. And then suddenly, boom, this thing is tacked on to
the edges of the great picture.
Yeah. And I guess I can see how he spent so much time writing and rewriting over and over things like, the beginning of Lord of the Rings or the history of Galadriel.
He's so detail oriented.
Because he's so detail oriented and he's just trying to get it perfect. And man, it's really telling. I think it gives us a real picture of him as a person, as much as we can get a picture of him as a person. I think this does give us a picture of him as a person because it shows us just how unsatisfied he must have been with his own creation. And that kind of makes me sad because we all love his creation. And I just kind of want to go back in time and say, Professor Tolkien, it's going to be okay. It's fantastic. It is
fantastic.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a fascinating bit. And I really do love, I really do love Leaf by Niggle. And
it is such an
obviously I
amazing
need to
story.
go back and reread it again. It's been way too long.
It is so rich. I'm excited for our non-legendarium season and to go through things like Smith and Leaf. And to just really work through those. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
Well, the rest of that passage that I read makes me think that one leaf caught in the wind. You know how we talked about the Hobbit earlier? I think that's it. You know, he says, let's see if that actual quote, it had begun, this one picture, with a leaf caught in the wind, and it became a tree, and the tree grew, sending out the branches. So, you know, I know you talked about, you know, the Hobbit sort of getting tacked on, and I think that's true, but I wonder if that is the leaf caught in the wind. That's that first story, The Hobbit, is where it began, but I could be wrong. It could be any number of stories that was the case, but
it could just as easily be the fall of Gondolin, or
that's true,
or the story of Eärendil. You know,
that's a good point. Yeah,
these stories that he just started as one-offs when he was in his 20s, and suddenly, you know what? I'm going to make this whole mythology. I'm going to make this whole history that comes out of it.
That's a good point.
I don't know that there is a right or wrong answer. I think it could be The Hobbit. I think it could be, you know, one of the first age stories.
I think you're right. Well, all I know is that when I read Leaf Caught in the Wind, I think of Leaf on the Wind, and all I can think of now is Wash from Firefly. So.
Oh, now I'm sad. Thanks a lot for that, dude.
Sorry, man.
Oh, poor Zoe.
Oh, well, spoilers.
And the poor Reavers who Zoe encountered shortly after that happened.
Oh, yes. Yeah, she was. Don't mess with Zoe, man.
No, do not mess with Zoe. I do want to talk about one more quote in that passage, and that's the bit about leaves in the same style and all of them different. Yeah. So if we're thinking about the leaves as being those detailed elements of Tolkien's subcreation, you know, like the languages, the maps, and I'm not saying that's the only way to interpret it.
No, of course not.
I think the leaves could be chapters, they could be stories, they could be characters.
Yeah.
But what do you think about leaves in the same style and all of them different? Each one requires a different approach, right? I mean, creating a language is something very different from creating a fully fleshed out character. And so maybe...
But even creating two different characters, you know, they need to be distinguishable. They need to be different.
True.
But they need to be consistent in terms of style. That language needs to work with that place, and those need to work with that character, and those all need to work with that myth that I want to... the story that I want to tell that's 1,000 years older than the current story time. All of them have to fit, so they need to be in the same style.
Yeah. And so that's how you can, I actually really like that interpretation, because that helps us understand how you can fit characters that are, you know, basically medieval Anglo-Saxons like the Rohirrim with something out of the first age like the elves with hobbits, which are basically 19th century English people, you know?
Yeah.
And he can take all these different things that really should not go together, and he can put them together in a world and make it seem consistent.
Totally believable, that interconsistency.
Beyond consistent, make it seem absolutely real. Yeah.
That's right.
Very cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, and since you started talking about trees, I'm also thinking of this quote as a way of describing actual leaves or actual trees.
Oh, even better.
Actually, when I see that bit about leaves in the same style and all of them different, the first thing I thought of was this moment later in the Treebeard chapter, which we're going to be getting to next week. And I'm going to go ahead and read from next episode, if you don't mind.
Ooh, I don't mind at all.
Several Ents had already arrived. More were coming in down the other paths, and some were now following Treebeard. As they drew near, the hobbits gazed at them. They had expected to see a number of creatures as much like Treebeard as one hobbit is like another, at any rate to a stranger's eye. And they were very much surprised to see nothing of the kind. The Ents were as different from one another as trees from trees, some as different as one tree is from another of the same name, but quite different growth and history, and some as different as one tree kind from another, as birch from beech, oak from fir. Wow. So yeah, and we'll see how the Ents do have a lot in common, despite the fact that they look totally different. They look like different kinds of trees. They all have so much uniqueness to them, and yet when they come together, they can communicate in a way that, you know, they kind of get each other. And I like that. If there's an interesting kind of fellowship.
And there are some things that they have totally in common.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get to that again next week. We'll get to the fact that their eyes are all the same.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Everything else may be different. They may be you know, radically different in height, in the number of toes and their limbs and all of that stuff, their skin, all of that. But their eyes are the same. And
That's right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, look, I know we are quite literally just scratching the surface of Leaf, but we're going to be giving that short story the full Prancing Pony podcast treatment when we get to that non-legendarium season in about 4 years.
That's right.
But for now, though, we're going to look at a really good artist's model for a tree, Mr. Forest himself, Treebeard. And Sean, I'm going to have you start out a little after where we left off last week.
Okay.
Now, tell me your tale, and do not hurry,
said Treebeard. The hobbits began to tell him the story of their adventures ever since they left Hobbiton. They followed no very clear order, for they interrupted one another continually, and Treebeard often stopped the speaker and went back to some earlier point, or jumped forward asking questions about later events. They said nothing whatever about the ring, and did not tell him why they set out or where they were going to, and he did not ask for any reasons. He was immensely interested in everything, in the Black Riders, in Elrond and Rivendell, in the Old Forest and Tom Bombadil, in the mines of Moria, and in Lothlorien and Galadriel. He made them describe the Shire and its country over and over again. He said an odd thing at this point.
You never see any Ents round there, do you?
He asked.
Well, not Ents. Entwives, I should really say.
Entwives? Said Pippin. Are they like you at all?
Yes, well, no. I do not really know now,
said Treebeard thoughtfully.
But they would like your country, so I just wondered.
Treebeard was, however, especially interested in everything that concerned Gandalf, and most interested of all in Saruman's doings.
No, of course he would be.
Oh, yes.
So,
he's taking notes on Saruman's doings.
Yeah, he's getting ready. He's getting something ready.
Yeah.
So going back to the start of your passage, we start out here. Treebeard is lying on his bed, right? And he's basically asking for news. He's saying, Alexa, give me my news flash. And
right.
Merry and Pippin begin to say, here's the latest from NPR.
Yep.
I will say, though, by the way,
a bit more excitable than the average NPR caster.
A bit more. And Merry and Pippin are probably a little more scattered than the typical NPR broadcast.
Probably.
I thought it was interesting, though, that he was lying down on the bed. Just kind of like, really? I didn't know trees would do that.
Treebeard has a bed? Yeah.
I know. What? I mean, we'll get to that, right?
We will talk about that a little bit later, I know. Yeah. But
it's just
and he bends slightly, right? The slightest sign of bending. So
only the slightest sign of bending in his middle.
Still got a little flexibility, the old guy does.
Yeah,
but,
in the afternoons, once he's warmed up a little bit. Don't get him in the morning. He's got no bending.
No bendy. No bendy in the morning. No bendy.
Bend me no like
bendy at all. No touchy. And of course, we hinted at this a moment ago. This is typical Merry and Pippin scattered, right? There's no clear order to the way they're telling the story. They're interrupting each other. They're jumping back and forth. One interesting thing, at least for Pippin, I think this is rather atypical. He doesn't mention the ring at all.
I know.
And neither one of them mentions the ring, but you would think that Pippin, this is an opportunity for Pippin to say something he shouldn't, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, here's another chance for you to screw up, Pippin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here is a chance for Peregrine to show his quality.
He seems to have learned some caution, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
absolutely. They also don't talk about any reason why they were traveling in the first place. No talk of why we're out on this series of adventures, which is, again, more cautious than you would expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, we get the highlights, right? We get the best of seasons 1 through 3 so far.
This is the clip reel. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is the clip reel.
The clip show. And then we saw the Black Riders.
And then the mines.
And then there was Elrond and Rivendell and the Old Forest and Tom.
Right. Oh, boy, you're just flying through Middle-earth here.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's through the interest of Treebeard. He's the one who's interested in everything. But he's making them describe one thing over and over again, and that is the Shire, huh?
Yeah, that's right. And then he actually asks about the Shire.
Right.
And he asks about the Ents first and then the Entwives.
Oh, man. Yeah.
And that's really fascinating. I mean, Pippin, of course, what's an Entwife?
Right, because that's a pretty reasonable question to ask.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, linguistically, one would expect it would be the wife of an Ent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of obvious. It's just what it says in the tin.
Or an Ent woman, because in Old English, weef
That's
just
true.
meant woman. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's true, too. Now, I found this bit where he says, I don't really know whether they're like me at all. Man, that's sad.
Mm,
They've been apart for so long, he literally doesn't know.
that is incredibly sad.
Oh.
That is profoundly sad.
I
Yeah.
don't even know if they're like us anymore.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. Now, I wonder, is that, and I don't think that there's one right answer to this, but I think some food for thought.
Mm-hmm.
Does he not know whether they're like him now because he can't remember, or because they've probably changed in the thousands of years since they've been together? It's probably a little bit of both, but we'll see later
It's true.
that he does still remember them.
He has a good memory.
He remembers his perception of what they looked like. So
Yes, he does.
yeah, I think this probably says more about the fact that Ents and Entwives are constantly changing
Yeah.
than it does about him actually forgetting.
Who knows?
what
They
look
might
like.
have become tree-ish by now.
Maybe.
We don't know what they'd be like. Maybe they would have decided that they gave up their gardening lifestyle and became more like Ents after all, but now they're apart. I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah. Maybe they started cultivating bees and they've become
Oh,
beeish.
no. Beeish.
Yeah. I don't know why I would have any reason to believe that, but it just came to
Well,
my mind.
they could have landed
So I
up
said it.
near Beorn's place.
That's right. They could have. And grown some honey. Yep.
Oh, that was just an excuse to get out your Winnie the Pooh.
It was. It totally was.
Well played, sir. So then we get Treebeard's especial concern about the wizards, about Gandalf and Saruman.
Yeah. Yeah, he's interested in them for good reason.
Yeah,
But
he is.
unfortunately, the hobbits don't really know that much, right?
No,
I mean,
don't.
they weren't at the council.
Unlike in the films, they didn't come running in at the last minute.
True. But they had some in-person experience of Saruman's peeps, didn't they?
That is true. That is quite true. They had some very direct experience.
Yeah, we're told that in the passage that I didn't read about, they knew
Right.
what they knew from listening to Ogluke and his guys.
Yeah, and that Saruman
So-
was their master.
Yep, absolutely.
And that tells a lot to Treebeard, and that's where I'm going to pick up,
All right.
said Treebeard, when at last their story had wound and wandered down to the battle of the orcs and the riders of Rohan.
Well, well, that is a bundle of news and no mistake. You have not told me all, no indeed, not by a long way. But I do not doubt that you are doing as Gandalf would wish. There is something very big going on, that I can see, and what it is maybe I shall learn in good time, or in bad time. By root and twig, but it is a strange business. Upsprout a little folk that are not in the old lists, and behold, the 9 forgotten riders reappear to hunt them, and Gandalf takes them on a great journey, and Galadriel harbors them in Caras Galadhon, and orcs pursue them down all the leagues of Wyrdeland. Indeed, they seem to be caught up in a great storm. I hope they weather it.
And what about yourself? Asked Merry.
I have not troubled about the great wars.
Said Treebeard.
They mostly concern elves and men. That is the business of wizards. Wizards are always troubled about the future. I do not like worrying about the future. I am not altogether on anybody's side, because nobody is altogether on my side, if you understand me. Nobody cares for the woods as I care for them. Not even elves nowadays. Still, I take more kindly to elves than to others. It was the elves that cured us of dumbness long ago, and that was a great gift that cannot be forgotten, though our ways have parted since. And there are some things, of course, whose side I am altogether not on. I am against them altogether. These Bararum,
He again made a deep rumble of disgust.
these orcs and their masters. I used to be anxious when the shadow lay on Mirkwood, but when it removed to Mordor, I did not trouble for a while. Mordor is a long way away. But it seems that the wind is setting east, and the withering of all woods may be drawing near. There is naught that an old Ent can do to hold back that storm. He must weather it or crack.
And we'll stop there for now.
Good place to stop.
Mostly because I don't think I can speak again.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of soldiering on today.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Treebeard dialogue.
Drink some lemon juice and carry on.
Yep, exactly. I'll talk for a little bit, give you a break.
It's all right, as long as I don't have to talk like Treebeard.
Right. We see right away, Treebeard is paying attention. Treebeard does
he
not
is listening
miss.
quite closely.
Yes,
No.
he is. He does not miss a trick. First thing he says right here in the beginning of this passage that you read, he makes it clear that he knows Merry and Pippin haven't told him everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But he also understands that that's how Gandalf would have wanted it. He knows. He knows Gandalf well. He knows that if they're hiding something, there's a good reason for it.
That's right.
And that's pretty
right.
cool.
He doesn't try to drill down. He doesn't try to wheedle it
No,
out of them, right?
He doesn't. He respects that. And I think that,
he's like,
that says a
you're
lot
not
about
telling
him.
me everything, but there's a good reason for that, so that's okay.
Yeah, and I guess there are just some things that he probably guesses he's probably not interested in, right? He wants to know more about Saruman. He wants to know more about...
Right.
He doesn't care that much about what Saruman is doing, why he's doing it. He doesn't, or the ring and all that stuff, but
No.
he cares about the effect that it's having, right?
Right. What it's doing to his forest, absolutely.
Yeah.
But even though his interest is isolated, he is starting to put that big story together. He's realizing there's a lot of, well, let's just say historical events going on. We've got the appearance of a new people on the world stage, the hobbits.
Right.
And lo and behold, the 9 riders who have been virtually non-existent for a very long time, they reappear. And now Gandalf, of all people, is taking these hobbits on a journey. Something's happening. Yeah.
It's interesting. He knows something about the Black Riders, doesn't he?
Yeah, I thought so too.
And I mean, I guess he knows about the White Council, so he probably has heard of these things without necessarily understanding their full significance.
Well, yeah, I doubt the 9 riders have come through Fangorn lately.
Right, exactly.
Kind of wish they would. You wonder if they'd survive.
They're probably staying as far away as they can.
Yeah.
But he does know some things about the White Council, probably. He knows Galadriel. He knows that, if Galadriel is harboring these guys, that's something of note.
Yes.
And then orcs are pursuing them. So, yeah, these guys have come out of nowhere, but obviously there's something important going on. And then he says something that I really like. He says, I hope they weather this storm.
Isn't that endearing? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's just a nice little bit of kindness, a little concern for his new friends.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, because these aren't, big, tough, hardy men.
No.
These aren't, incredibly wise elves. These are little hobbits.
Yeah, but the fact that he says this, it indicates that he already cares about them.
Yes, he does.
He's a shepherd. Protecting things that need his protection
That's true.
Is what he does.
Yeah, it's his nature. You're right.
He's kind of taken the hobbits under his limb, his branch.
Quite literally, as well as metaphorically.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
So then Merry asks, okay, well, what about you, Treebeard? What's going on with you?
Yeah, we've told you our bit. Now it's your turn. And
yeah,
he's like, look, I'm neutral. I don't concern myself with elves and men. That's wizards' business. And not only that, I don't even worry about the future. I'm just kind of in the moment. I'm only concerned about what's happening right now.
Yeah.
This is really interesting. This is where we get into that famous line about not being on anybody's side.
Mm-hmm.
This neutrality, right? I mean, I don't concern myself with those things. Somebody else does that.
Right.
I don't worry about the future. I only worry about right now. And I'm not on anybody's side. There's a professed neutrality here that is almost, dare I say it, naive?
I don't know that I would call it naive. I think it's different from the neutrality that we see with somebody like Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's just kind of distancing himself from everything. I think what's going on here is that the Ents have a specific job to do in Middle-earth, and it's to protect the trees. That's their side.
A good point.
Their side is to protect the forests.
Yeah.
And I think what we'll see with whether we're talking about orcs or elves or men or dwarves or even hobbits, none of them really appreciate trees the way the Ents do.
Well, of course not. No. Yeah.
They're trees to them, and we'll talk about this later. We go back to chapter 2 of the Silmarillion, where Yavanna is concerned that the children of Iluvatar are only going to see trees for what they can give them.
Right.
They're just going to be resources and a source of food and things like that. And so I think that's what Treebeard means by nobody's on my side. Everybody's fighting over land, domination, power.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's fighting for the trees except for Treebeard and the Ents. And I think that's what he means there. So
okay, that's a good point.
I see it as just he's got a mission, and that's what I love about Treebeard is he's truly
focused on that mission. Unless his trees are in danger, he's not going
absolutely.
to care. Okay, that's fair.
Absolutely. He does his job.
Okay, valid point.
But I think it is very interesting that he lumps the elves in with this too. He says nobody cares about the trees the way I do, not even the elves.
Right.
I mean, he likes the elves. He points out that they're the ones who taught us how to speak, but
wouldn't be talking if it weren't for the elves. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, it's not, they just don't really see the woods the way we do.
Yeah, that's a good point. But he does at least make it clear that while we might not be on anybody's side, there are some sides that we are definitely against. And we get that Burarum word again, which does not mean orcs. It's just a sound of disgust, quite literally.
Yeah. It's
blech.
It's probably best translated as a word that we can't really say on the
Yeah, that's
podcast.
probably true. Yeah,
keep our
family
clean
friendly.
rating. Yeah.
Do we need the explicit tag already?
No, we don't.
Oh no, they said Burarum again. We're going to get a YouTube content warning.
That's right. The E doesn't mean explicit. It just means entish.
Entish. I like that.
That was a dad
entish.
joke. I'm so sorry. E for entish.
That really is. That's a bad dad joke. Yeah.
It was terrible. Then he goes on to talk a little bit about some more of the more recent history. He says he was anxious when the shadow was on Mirkwood.
Mm-hmm.
We know that was as recently as the events of The Hobbit. But
yeah,
ever since it's moved, ever since it's gone back to Mordor, I've been okay. I'm not worried about these things anymore. It's not encroaching on my territory. These events aren't a threat to me.
I mean, look, I hear him and he's right in the sense that it's not an immediate threat, but this sounds a little myopic to me. I mean,
I agree. Yeah.
Interestingly takes a long view on other things, right? I mean, he clearly thinks about hundreds or even thousands of years of time passing, but here he's very myopic. But then again, like you said, maybe it's just more mission focused.
Well, yeah, I think you got a point there. I think there is a point at which you do kind of need to understand what's going on around you because eventually it's going to affect you. So
yeah, better to deal with the threat when it's not right on your front door.
Ideally, yeah. And so maybe there's, again, I don't know that I would say naivete, but I think there is something lacking in his perspective,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That he is so focused on his mission that he can't see threats that are coming down the road. He's only going to see the threats that are right there at his doorstep.
Good point.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then he has this really, I don't know how to describe this next bit. I don't know if it's fatalistic. I guess it is fatalistic, and I don't mean that in a negative way, but
no,
in just sort of a kind of it's inevitable, right? He recognizes that this storm is coming, and it's inevitable. We can't stop it from coming. We can't hold it back. All we can do is weather it or crack, and that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if that's like a false binary. I mean, isn't there something that you can do that's between it that you can? I mean, as we'll find out. I mean, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Ents aren't trees. I mean, he's drawing a tree parallel.
Mm-hmm.
A tree can only weather the storm or crack. A tree can't do anything at all about the storm. But Ents aren't trees. And we're going to find out real soon that they're able to do more than merely weather the storm or crack.
Do they hold it back, though?
I don't know that they hold it back. They go in and they face it, and they defeat it in a way.
And there's the false binary. You can't avoid it, but you can confront it head on.
Right. It's not just merely weathering the storm.
It's not just merely weathering the storm.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I could probably get there. I hadn't thought of it that way. I had thought of it as just like, hey, look, it's coming, so we're gonna have to deal with it. And they do deal with it, but you're right. Weathering implies kind of a passive dealing.
Oh,
with
very
it. Like,
yeah.
Okay, let's just hole up and survive it, as opposed
like
to
a tree.
Doing what they do.
Either the storm will knock me out and rip me out of the ground or break me in half, or it won't. Either I'll survive or I won't.
Right.
And while that's a true binary, either I'm going to live or I'm going to die. That's a valid binary.
Right.
To reduce it to this sort of tree-like parallel just seems to me a little, I don't know, fatalistic may be the wrong word, but it's awfully close to it.
Short-sighted, myopic might be, again,
Yeah.
I think myopic is a better word than
That's fair.
naive or fatalistic or any of these other things. I think he's just so focused on his mission, which is a good thing, I thought a moment ago, and now we're seeing some ways in which it's not.
There are
totally
some
good
weaknesses
thing.
to it, right?
Yeah, there are. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, some blind spots, as you might say.
Yeah.
But before the withering of all woods draws near, we wanted to remind you to check out our website, theprancingponypodcast.com.
All the good stuff is still there. Show notes, outtakes, Prancing Pony Ponderings, and also our online storefront where you can get PPP shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
And one of the best resources we have is our library page. After all, we love the books here at the Prancing Pony Podcast, and we want to make sure you can get your hands on any of the books we mention here.
Yeah, we may talk about a lot of different Tolkien-related stuff on the podcast, but really, Alan and I are fans of Tolkien's books and books about Tolkien. That's why we have the library page, with links to every book we've ever mentioned on the show.
Now, we do make a few pennies from the purchases that you make from those links, so thank you for your support.
Well, today we're pleased to welcome back Mythology Candles to the PPP. Mythology Candles allows you to create more immersive experiences in everyday life with their fantasy-inspired candles.
Now, for Tolkien fans, they have a dedicated tale-inspired collection with everything from the Ranger, which smells like trodden leaves and war-beaten leather, to Wizard's Pipeweed. They even have Double Breakfast, which smells like delicious maple syrup pancakes.
It really does, too.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. They also have a general fantasy collection with candles like Dwarven Forge, which smells like you're actually in a dwarven mine.
I got to know what that smells like. I got to try that one out.
Yeah, definitely. So if you're looking for a little something extra to create the perfect atmosphere for a gaming night, sitting down with a good book, or just watching a movie, Mythology Candles make a great addition and really help set the scene.
They do. Now, Mythology Candles are handmade in limited batches with eco-friendly coconut wax, crackling wooden wicks, and natural fragrances that are designed to instantly transport you to another realm. So if you're a fan of Tolkien, RPGs, history, or fantasy, check out Mythology Candles at mythology with an I-E at the end instead of a Y, candles.com.
That's MYTHOLOGIE, candles.com.
All right, but now Treebeard's gotten past this seeming neutrality and, I don't worry about things. He's got something to worry about now, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And this is where we're going to see him start to realize that false binary that he set himself into a moment ago.
Yeah.
And start to rethink it a little bit.
A little bit.
But Saruman now. Saruman is a neighbor. I cannot overlook him. I must do something, I suppose. I have often wondered lately what I should do about Saruman.
Who is Saruman? Asked Pippin. Do you know anything about his history?
Saruman is a wizard,
answered Treebeard.
More than that, I cannot say. I do not know the history of wizards. They appeared first after the great ships came over the sea. But if they came with the ships, I never can tell. Saruman was reckoned great among them, I believe. He gave up wandering about and minding the affairs of men and elves some time ago. You would call it a very long time ago. And he settled down at Angrenost, or Isengard, as the men of Rohan call it. He was very quiet to begin with, but his fame began to grow. He was chosen to be the head of the White Council, they say, but that did not turn out too well. I wonder now if even then Saruman was not turning to evil ways. But at any rate, he used to give no trouble to his neighbors. I used to talk to him. There was a time when he was always walking about my woods. He was polite in those days, always asking my leave, at least when he met me, and always eager to listen. I told him many things that he would never have found out by himself. But he never repaid me in like kind. I cannot remember that he ever told me anything. And he got more and more like that. His face, as I remember it, I have not seen it for many a day, became like windows in a stone wall. Windows with shutters inside.
That's an interesting look.
It is. Yeah. That's going to be my next Saruman cosplay, is going to be with a stonewall face. With
Stonewall face with the
shutters
shutters
for
in the
eyes.
windows.
Yeah. Why not?
You walk around bumping into everybody.
That's a terrifying thought.
That really is, yeah. So, we come back a little bit to that professed neutrality, or the mission focus, I guess I should say. Saruman's a neighbor, so I might not have to worry about Sauron, the Dark Lord who's going to cover the whole world with the second darkness. I don't need to worry about him. I just need to worry about Saruman because he's a neighbor.
Right.
The
guy next door.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, there might be a serial killer in the city next door, but as long as he's only targeting people there, I'm more concerned about the guy next to me whose dog is barking.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, that's really an unfair comparison. But
dog
still.
barking might be downplaying the threat of
That
Saruman
might
a
be.
little bit,
That
but
might
yeah,
be.
you make a good point. Yeah.
So, Saruman it cannot be overlooked, and Treebeard must do something. But it does seem to be, once again, about that mission. It's the proximity or immediacy of the danger, isn't it?
It is. And we see that it is absolutely that, because not only does he recognize that, oh, you know what? Yeah, I probably should do something about Saruman. We learn that he's been thinking about this a lot lately.
Yeah.
So
which is interesting.
It's the polar opposite of Sauron. I'm not worried about that guy, but Saruman I'm obsessed with.
Future, I'm not worried about. Sauron, I'm not worried about. But Saruman.
So the neighbor with the barking dog is keeping you up at night, and you keep
Right.
on thinking about, what am I going to do to that dog or to that neighbor?
Or to that neighbor, right. Oh, man. And so that's when we get The History of Saruman the White by Treebeard. I love it.
You mean, I don't know anything about Saruman. Now let me tell you everything I know about Saruman.
That's exactly right. I don't know anything about that guy, but here's what I know.
I
book.
don't know anything about that guy, but let me tell you. So he comes from, the West, and his 40th birthday party, this is what we did together. And not that Saruman.
Saruman's 40th birthday party was a long
time ago. I know, but at some point it became a real life situation and not a Saruman situation.
Yeah, it's true.
But Treebeard acknowledges this part is true. He really doesn't know the history of wizards.
No.
Now he knows that Saruman and Gandalf are wizards, and in some sense that almost seems to answer it all for him. He's just like, Saruman, he's a wizard. I mean, that's it. What else do you need to know?
That explains
He's a
it.
wizard.
That's all you need to know. He's a wizard. That explains everything else. He also knows that they showed up after the great ships came, but that's kind of a broad range.
Yeah, it is, because the great ships first came over the sea around Second Age 1800. So
right.
sometime in the last 5,000 years.
Somewhere way back when.
Now, that's if he means the first Númenorian ships. Now, if he means later when Elendil made it over with his
survivors
ships,
of Númenor, yeah.
Yeah, that's still Second Age 3319, so it's still sometime in the last 3,000 years.
It's still a very long time ago, because the Astari didn't arrive until Third Age 1000, so that's 1,100 years after Elendil, or more than 2,600 years after the great ships first came over, when the Númenorians were establishing their dominions on the coasts of Middle-earth. So they showed up, I don't know, somewhere around 2,600 years ago. Oh, wait, no, they just showed up.
That's when you tell your wife, I'll fix the toilet after I finish watching this show. And then the show's over, and she's like, are you going to fix the toilet? Like, yeah, I'm going to fix it tomorrow. That's after I finished watching the show.
After the show. Sometime after the show. Like, I was thinking a month after the show ends, but yeah.
Right, yeah.
I didn't say when after. Did I?
Yeah, exactly. Not that I would ever do that. I would always fix the toilet immediately after finishing.
I would always call a plumber immediately.
Yeah, that's true.
I know my limits, Sean, and those
there's a small window of things that I can do to fix the toilet.
The very small window. Yeah, I can jiggle around in the tank, and that's about it, man.
Is that it? There's a handful of things I can tighten to fix the toilet.
Well, yeah, that's true. If like the lid is wonky, or but
there's a few nuts and bolts down in there that I've played around with before and managed to fix.
But I'm pretty much just going to call a plumber.
I'm not a handy guy by any means.
No. I can fix your tech problems. I can figure out why your mail isn't syncing or why your calendar is goofed up. But, I can't, I'm not going to fix your
Can't
plumbing.
fix a toilet.
No.
Install a kitchen faucet. I can install
I
a kitchen
did
faucet.
actually. When we first moved into this house, I replaced the kitchen faucet. Yeah.
Yeah, I've installed a couple of kitchen faucets in my time.
That's about the top end of my.
That's about the limit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
yeah.
That's like when I install a kitchen faucet, and I've done it a couple of times successfully, I'm like, yes.
Oh, I feel like a man.
I feel
Yeah.
so good about myself.
Mhm.
I am accomplished.
Oh, I just walk around flexing the rest of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if it leaks at all, then
I'll
call a plumber.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'm not installing a garbage disposal. That's a step beyond my skill range again.
Yeah,
I know where
that's a bit
I
much.
fit on that. It's like the cars. I can't fix cars these days because everything's computerized. But you give me
Yeah.
a 1967 Chevelle, where you can fit like 4 people in the engine bay. 'Cause it's
Right, yeah.
huge. And yeah, I can change your spark plugs for you. I can, well, I'm not going to dismantle the carburetor. That's probably, again, a little beyond me, but I can at least change the oil or change the spark
Yeah.
plugs and give it a tune up. But yeah,
It's all about knowing our limits. That's
absolutely.
really what sets us
And then
apart
having
from
a
the
phone.
animals.
Having a phone and Yelp really is all you need after that. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, we digress.
we do.
So, Treebeard, going back to the text, he knows that Saruman was considered great among the wizards, right? He wasn't
Yes.
just some guy. He was one of the greats.
Saruman wasn't just this guy,
Nope.
And interestingly enough, Saruman, according to Treebeard, gave up being involved with men and elves, and some time ago settled down.
Again, some time ago.
Yeah,
Sometime
vagueness.
in the past few thousand years. Not sure when.
At some point, I don't remember when. Yeah.
And yet he knows like every name of the place he's settled down in, right?
Oh yeah.
The first thing he calls it is Angranost,
Mhm.
which is a name that we don't see a lot. That is Sindarin for Iron Fortress.
Right.
It is actually a pretty close translation of Isengard.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise I'm not going to say more about Isengard right now because I really want to get into that in a philology fair segment.
Oh, we have to have a philology fair. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, we haven't had one for a while, and I think I'll do Isengard probably sometime before we finish this chapter. So look
Fair
for that in
enough.
the next couple of weeks.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Well, he talks about settling down there, but when did he occupy Orthanc? Well, Tale of Years, because Treebeard won't tell us, Tale of Years tells us it was in Third Age 2759, which is about 260 years ago. So it's been a while, but,
Yeah.
in Treebeard years, that's a pretty short time.
Yeah. Now, this is a very interesting characterization. I don't think we see this description of Saruman much, that he was quiet to begin with, but then his fame began to grow.
Yeah.
Is this possibly an indication that maybe early on Saruman was doing his job? He was actually studying
so.
and researching and learning and getting to know things. But
Yeah.
then as word got out about, who he was, not who he really was, but, people heard about
No.
this guy living in this place and this wizard, his fame began to grow. And I don't know, maybe some of that stuff went to his head a little bit.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he is very much a proud figure. So
Yeah. Yeah. And then he's chosen as the head of the White Council. And
Yeah. That always interests me.
yeah, we've talked about it before on the show, haven't
There's
we?
no answer to that. Like, how did he end up being the guy? Because that Gandalf probably wouldn't have voted for him. And Galadriel, we know, wanted Gandalf to lead.
Wasn't it just something like he was just kind of throwing a fit about it? And so
Probably.
they decided to let him.
I'm the head of the White Council. Fine.
I think it is something like that, actually, from what I recall. I mean, it's basically just, there's not really a solid answer given, but it's just basically Galadriel wanted Gandalf to be the head of the White Council. And
I do know that he was very
Saruman
upset
wasn't.
with- yeah.
Saruman wasn't happy about that, so
No, he
Saruman
was
ended
not.
up getting it.
And
So
he's always held a grudge against Gandalf for that.
yeah, for whatever reason, they finally gave in, probably because it was just easier to just
Yeah, just let
fine.
the Wookiee win. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Treebeard wonders if back then Saruman was already turning to evil, but when is back then? Well, Tale of Years again tells us that the White Council was formed in Third Age 2463, which is a little over 550 years ago. So he was actually head of the
Okay.
White Council for almost 300 years before he ended up occupying Orthanc, which is interesting.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. But I love the way he talks about Saruman here. It's hilarious. It sounds like he's talking about the serial killer that you find out about on the news,
It totally does.
doesn't it?
He
He
was-
never bothered his neighbors.
He was the last person you would have expected. He was so
totally
quiet.
polite.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's creepy how he sounds, just
It
like
is.
what you hear on the news.
It is
I never
totally
would have
creepy.
suspected that mass murderer who just killed 70 people of being such a bad guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is totally creepy. You're absolutely right.
it's like a red flag. Like that should alone set off the alarm bells.
Yeah.
I mean, ding, ding, ding.
And then there's a couple of other little red flags, right? He was always eager to listen. He always soaking up information.
Right.
I told him some things that he would have never found out if I hadn't told them.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Even Treebeard can get suckered.
Yeah.
And we'll see him get suckered again later, too. I mean,
yes.
really. Yeah.
Yes, we will. But yeah, just like he just took.
Yeah.
He never gave anything back. And that's telling. That's who Saruman is. He's proud. He's always looking for his angle that's going to give him power over others. And
boy, that's absolutely right.
And that's it. And then we get that great metaphor or terrible costume idea. Windows and a stone wall with shutters.
My recommendation, if you do that, is not to build your wall with actual stone. It's going to make it really heavy on your face.
It would be very heavy. Not the most comfortable costume to wear.
Paper mache, maybe. But that's about the best you can do, yeah. Well, I'm going to pick up exactly there. I know this is weird. We often, try to leave a few sentences between our readings. But this response of Treebeard, as he's kind of doing all this exposition, is so important that we're actually not skipping a lot of it. So
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I now understand what he is up to. He is plotting to become a power. He has a mind of metal and wheels, and he does not care for growing things, except as far as they serve him for the moment. And now it is clear that he is a black traitor. He is taken up with foul folk, with the orcs. Boom! Worse than that, he has been doing something to them. Something dangerous. For these Isengarders are more like wicked men. It is a mark of evil things that came in the great darkness, that they cannot abide the sun. But Saruman's orcs can endure it, even if they hate it. I wonder what he has done. Are they men he has ruined? Or has he blended the races of orcs and men? That would be a black evil.
Treebeard rumbled for a moment, as if he were pronouncing some deep, subterranean, Entish malediction.
Some time ago I began to wonder how orcs dared to pass through my woods so freely,
he went on.
Only lately did I guess that Saruman was to blame, and that long ago he'd been spying out all the ways and discovering my secrets. He and his foul folk are making havoc now. Down on the borders they are felling trees, good trees. Some of the trees they just cut down and leave to rot. Orc mischief, that. But most are hewn up and carried off to feed the fires of Orthanc. There is always a smoke rising from Isengard these days.
He's getting angry.
He is. He's starting to get
Saruman,
fired
you would
up.
not like him when he's angry.
No, you would not. You think the Hulk is bad. I'm telling you. Treebeard might just be worse.
Yeah. So going back to the beginning of your passage, Saruman is plotting to become a power.
Yeah.
Note the capital P there.
Ooh, yeah.
The first thing I think of with power with a capital P is that usually that means Vala.
The powers of the world, yeah.
The Valar means the powers. Is that what Saruman is trying to become? I mean, I don't think he literally is. I think he's being one of the Ainur. He probably knows better than that.
He knows he can't.
He could not possibly become one. But it's interesting that Tolkien uses this capital P.
The word power, yeah.
Because I don't think he means Vala here. But
no,
the fact this capital P has got to be significant, and I just don't know what else to make of it.
A great power,
maybe like a superpower, like we would say a superpower today.
A superpower is a thing that you possess, like, oh, I have invisibility, or I have.
No, I'm talking about like a political superpower.
Right? Yeah. Like a nation-state superpower. Like, become one of the big players, to leap from being. I don't want to insult nations, so I won't. But to leap from being a very small nation, to being a powerful, economic, mighty engine with big military.
Yeah, to be a big player in the world. Yeah,
right. That's what he wants.
Maybe
he wants to be an influencer. And not on Instagram. Yeah.
Right. And then we get this bit about his mind being like a device. We're going to see that we're going to see that analogy stretched out a little bit further.
Yeah, we will. There's going to be a lot of that.
But yeah, I mean, so the classic line, right? A machine, a mind of metal and wheels.
That is a great line. Yeah.
It is such a great line. I love it. And Tom Shippey, in Author of the Century, has this to say about Saruman, which I think is great. And I want to give a hat tip to Hammond and Skull for finding it for us.
Mm-hmm.
What does Saruman stand for? One thing, certainly, is a kind of mechanical ingenuity, smithcraft developed into engineering skills. Shippey then goes on to say that, just like the dragon sickness of Thorin, Saruman has a metal sickness associated with iron that starts as intellectual curiosity, develops as engineering skill, turns into greed and the desire to dominate, corrupts further into a hatred and contempt of the natural world, which goes beyond any rational desire to use it.
Wow.
Wow.
That is well said, sir.
It is. Thank you, Tom Shippey.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's likening this to Thorin's dragon sickness, which is sort of an obsession with gold.
Right.
And this is another metal sickness, an obsession with iron.
Yeah, with sort of industry, with power and the machine.
Yeah.
All for the purpose of domination. Yeah.
All for the purpose of domination. And then how that changes from pursuit of these things for themselves, and then it just eventually turns into a hatred and contempt of the natural world.
Yeah, this isn't just trying to use the resources.
No.
This isn't just even an irresponsible use of the wood in the forest. This is a cruel
hatred and
malicious hatred of it.
Mm-hmm. This is getting into a Melkorish nihilism.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
Destruction for the sake of destruction.
Yeah. And the only care that he gives about living or growing things is solely what purpose do they serve for him? What's their usefulness?
That's right. How can I use them? Yeah. If I can't use them, if I've got enough wood, well, I'll just leave it here to rot.
Right.
And then
he's
a traitor, a black traitor, taken up with the orcs.
Wow. You don't take up with the orcs, man. Yeah.
No, you don't.
And worse than that, his orcs aren't ordinary orcs. They're either ruined men or they're even worse than that, half men, half orcs.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. And of course, we've looked into that, right? I mean, that certainly seems to be the case here, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. I mean, we see a few times later on, we'll see observations that, they remind Merry of some of the evil men that they see when they get back to the Shire, remind them of orcs that they saw when they were captives.
Mm-hmm. They're taller. They can run during the day.
Yeah.
They're stronger. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all these hints that these orcs have been bred with men. Oh. And again, Tolkien, he went back and we've talked about this so many times. He went back and forth on the origins of orcs. I don't think there is one single origin of orcs. I think these orcs happen to be partially ruined men. Yeah. And probably, men that have been bred with existing orcs. Which is,
that's disturbing on 1,000 levels. It's disturbing.
Yeah.
I like this bit about Treebeard. How does the text put it? I mean, I'm thinking he's just muttering under his breath, sort of like the dad in A Christmas Story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
As if he's pronouncing some deep subterranean Entish malediction. He's speaking Entish profanities.
That is the coolest way, the most Tolkienish way to say he's cursing up a storm.
Yeah, he really is. He's talking a blue streak right here. I mean, if he actually were speaking things, we would need that explicit tag now, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But he's mad, right? I mean, he's orcs
fuming.
Have been traveling through his forest.
Yeah.
I wondered how they managed to do so. Only recently did I blame Saruman and discover his spying.
Yeah, probably figured it out on one of his visits to Treebeard and asking all his questions, and Treebeard just volunteering all the information.
Yeah, probably.
Now you know better. Yeah. And then, of course, he talks about Saruman and his orcs cutting down trees, and some of them are to fuel the fires, which they're fires to create weapons and terrible things. It's not like these are fires to keep a nation of people warm.
Yeah. Even the ones he's putting to use for evil ends.
Right. And the others he's not even putting to use. It's just wanton orc mischief. Yeah.
Right. And that paragraph that we read from earlier from Author of the Century actually continues on this point. Mm-hmm. It points out that Saruman's orcs start by felling trees for the furnaces, but they end up by felling them for fun, as Treebeard complains.
Oh, man.
The applicability of this is obvious, with Saruman becoming an image of one of the characteristic vices of modernity: skill without purpose, bulldozing for the sake of change.
Skill without purpose. I like that. Boy,
And we
shippy, man.
know change for the sake of change. We know how Tolkien felt about that.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, Treebeard really echoes Tolkien's own sentiment about the unnecessary destruction of trees. We quoted from letter number 339 before, but it's definitely worth bringing in again. Tolkien writes to the editor of the Daily Telegraph, who unwisely talked about walking in areas that had been transformed into a kind of Tolkien gloom where no bird sings. Shouldn't have done that.
That's not Tolkienish at all, really.
No.
I mean, have you even read the books?
I mean, I guess there's a bit about
Maybe
Mirkwood that
Mirkwood?
makes you feel that way, but come on. Tolkien was, of course, unsurprisingly, quite perturbed at linking his name as, quote, an adjective qualifying gloom, especially in a context dealing with trees. He went on to say, in all my works, I take the part of trees as against all their enemies. So, like I said, we've read from this letter before, but it's the last paragraph that really bears repeating here. It would be unfair to compare the Forestry Commission with Sauron, because, as you observe, it is capable of repentance, but nothing it has done that is stupid compares with the destruction, torture, and murder of trees perpetrated by private individuals and minor official bodies. The savage sound of the electric saw is never silent wherever trees are still found growing.
I love that thread in Tolkien. It's just his love for the trees.
Yeah. It's not just a love for nature, right? We talk about his love for nature, but it's really trees. Trees.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Passionate.
He really
about
loves trees.
Yeah.
Well, I think with that,
yeah,
I think it's time to move on to my next reading, where Treebeard finally decides on a decides on a little bit
well,
of
he
action,
does decide, but then he undecides. Yeah.
Right? Right. Well, let's not be hasty.
Not hasty, no.
Curse him, root and branch. Many of those trees were my friends, creatures I had known from nut and acorn. Many had voices of their own that are lost forever now. And there are wastes of stump and bramble where once there were singing groves. I have been idle. I have let things slip. It must stop.
Treebeard raised himself from his bed with a jerk, stood up, and thumped his hand on the table. The vessels of light trembled and sent up 2 jets of flame. There was a flicker like green fire in his eyes, and his beard stood out stiff as a great besom.
I will stop it,
he boomed.
And you shall come with me. You may be able to help me. You will be helping your own friends that way too. For if Saruman is not checked, Rohan and Gondor will have an enemy behind as well as in front. Our roads go together to Isengard.
We will come with you, said Merry. We will do what we can. Yes, said Pippin. I should like to see the White Hand overthrown. I should like to be there even if I could not be of much use. I shall never forget Ugluk and the crossing of Rohan.
Good, good,
said Treebeard.
But I spoke hastily. We must not be hasty. I have become too hot. I must cool myself and think. For it is easier to shout stop than to do it.
He's not wrong, I suppose, that last little bit. It is a lot easier to shout it than to do it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially once you're fired up like this.
Yeah, his anger didn't last very long before he's like, I should think about this.
Yeah. He gets really fired up, and then he's like, hang on, wait.
Yeah, wait.
Deep breath, count to 10.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very feverish now, feeling a little hot.
But he has reason to be very upset here.
Very upset. I mean, he's cursing Saruman because those trees were his friends. These are individual entities that spoke with their own voices.
Yeah.
Oh.
And there are wastes where there were once singing groves. I mean, these were living things that sang. And you can hear Tolkien's voice strongly in all of this.
Oh, yes, you can. Yeah.
And you can even see the echo of the Silmarillion chapter 2, which I talked about a little earlier in the episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that is of Aule and Yavanna, and that's the chapter in which Tolkien explains the reason why Yavanna created the Ents in the first place, and it was to protect the forests from waste and from destruction, and to make sure that the children of Iluvatar use their natural resources responsibly.
Right.
So, if you go back all the way to Season 1, you may remember that after Aule made the dwarves, Yavanna was dismayed because she said, "They will delve in the earth, and the things that grow and live upon the earth they will not heed. Many a tree shall feel the bite of their iron without pity."
But Aule answered, "That shall also be true of the children of Iluvatar, for they will eat and they will build. And though the things of thy realm have worth in themselves, and would have worth if no children were to come, yet Eru will give them dominion, and they shall use all that they find in Arda, though not by the purpose of Eru, without respect or without gratitude."
"Not unless Melkor darkened their hearts," said Yavanna. And she was not appeased, but grieved in heart, fearing what might be done upon Middle-earth in days to come. Therefore she went before Manwë, and she did not betray the counsel of Aule, but she said, "King of Arda, is it true, as Aule hath said to me, that the children, when they come, shall have dominion over all the things of my labor, to do as they will therewith?"
"It is true," said Manwë. "But why dost thou ask? For thou hast no need of the teaching of Aule."
Then Yavanna was silent, and looked into her own thought, and she answered, "Because my heart is anxious, thinking of the days to come. All my works are dear to me. Is it not enough that Melkor should have marred so many? Shall nothing that I have devised be free from the dominion of others?"
"If thou hadst thy will, what wouldst thou reserve?" said Manwë. "Of all thy realm, what dost thou hold dearest?"
"All have their worth," said Yavanna, "and each contributes to the worth of the others. But the Kelvar can flee or defend themselves, whereas the Olvar that grow cannot." And in case folks don't remember, the Kelvar are basically the fauna, the Olvar are the flora.
That's right.
"And among these I hold trees dear. Long in the growing, swift shall they be in the felling. And unless they pay toll with fruit upon bough, little mourned in their passing. So I see in my thought. Would that the trees might speak on behalf of all things that have roots, and punish those that wrong them."
Yeah.
And then that's when the Ents came to be.
Right.
To
That's right.
be those trees that speak on behalf of the things
To
that
be
have
those
roots.
punishers.
To
right.
be those punishers, yeah. The protectors
Absolutely.
and the
Yeah.
avengers.
Now I'm picturing
And now you're
Ents as the
imagining like
Avengers.
one in like an iron suit and one
Yes, and one with
dressed
a red,
up like
white,
Captain
and blue
America.
shield. And,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And one's got a bow and
Got a-
arrow because Hawkeye.
One sort of green and has really broad shoulders.
That's going to be Treebeard in a minute here.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. No
He's
doubt.
about to Hulk out.
Yeah. Hulk out. I love it. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that is why the Ents are here. That's that mission we were talking about. And Treebeard here seems to realize that, I've been foolish to be idle like this. This is my job.
Yeah.
My job is to protect this forest from this, and I've let it go on for far too long. And
Yes, I have.
you know what? I'm going to stop it.
Mm-hmm. So that's when he gets all fired up. That's when he gets determined. He actually sits up, which is pretty cool. I don't know how he does that without bending, but he somehow manages. He bangs the table, and there's a fire in his eyes. He is ready to roll.
He is. Now, I probably should define a word here.
Oh, I know which word.
Besom.
Yeah, besom.
I actually didn't know this. I had to look it up.
Mhm.
A besom is a broom made of twigs tied around a stick.
Okay.
So when his beard is sticking out like this, imagine it sticking out like an old broom, right? Like an old medieval
Kind of
broom or
ratty, kind of, real stiff for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when Treebeard makes up his mind, man, he makes up his mind and he brings friends along.
I was going to say, he makes up his mind and the minds of everybody
He makes up
around
your
him.
mind too, because he's like, not only am I going to stop this, but hey, you guys are coming with me to help.
In Soviet Fangorn, Treebeard makes your decisions. Treebeard decides for you.
We need to do a whole bunch of in Soviet Fangorn jokes. In Soviet Fangorn, Tree hugs you.
Oh, goodness. Well, he does sort of make the decision for Merry and Pippin. Thankfully, they agree.
What would they do if they didn't? I mean,
Yeah,
like,
I know. What do you mean you're going to take us with you, sir? Can we remind you we're a lot smaller and we're a lot squishier?
Right.
You once said that if we wanted to leave, you could set us down at any place in the border of your country. Can we take you up on that offer?
Can we do that
right
one?
now?
Let's do
Yeah.
that one again.
Let's do that. Yeah, what's behind door number 2?
Right.
So he rightly points out that Saruman presents a second front for Rohan and Gondor. This is, by doing this, we may help the bigger picture. And that's interesting because that's very different from how he was viewing things before. He wasn't really concerned about elves and men.
Anybody else's fight. Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Well, I guess he's got enough wisdom to know that they don't care about the forest the way he does, right? Again,
That's true.
Nobody's on his side. The hobbits are
That's
nice
right.
guys, but they're not really going to get fired up about this the way Treebeard does.
No.
So he's going to make an argument that they're going to agree with. Look, it's not just about the trees. This is about your friends, too.
That's right. And so our roads go together to Isengard.
That's right. There should be a song about that. Well, maybe there will be.
I think there might be, yeah.
And so, I mean, look, all that stuff about what are they going to do if they don't want to go with him, it doesn't matter because they do agree.
No. Yeah.
Pippin's actually quite enthusiastic about it.
Yes, he
Merry's
is.
like, yeah, we'll do it. Then we'll do it. We're little guys and we're squishy, but we'll do what we can.
Mhm.
Pippin's like, no, man, I want to do something about this. I will never forget Uglut and the crossing of Rohan.
Of course he won't.
Pippin wants a little revenge.
I can't blame him. But of course, the minute he gets all fired up too, immediately Treebeard dials it back,
Well, hang on, guys. Hang on. Wait.
Maybe that was something. Oh, we need to think about that. Let's get a committee together. We must cool down. We have to make this decision logically now. We can't be too hasty. We can't even speak hastily. It's really interesting.
He's like the guy in your group of friends who makes a suggestion about something, and then as soon as everybody agrees to do that,
Yes.
it's like, wait, no, I didn't really want to do that. I was just, but usually it's like some crazy idea that he's proposed,
totally crazy idea that nobody in their right mind would ever do. But then everybody,
and then when everybody's
agrees.
like, yeah, absolutely, let's
And he's like,
go break into the car dealership, and he's like,
Right.
wait, no,
Yeah,
I was joking, guys.
not a good idea.
But he does say, and again, we talked about this. This is quite accurate. It is a lot easier to shout stop than to actually do it.
Shout, let it all out. Yeah.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Well, because the song's not called Do.
True.
Do.
Do.
Do it. Oh, yeah. No, it's not
do. Yeah, I don't know. What would you do?
No.
What would you do with that do?
What would you do with the do?
I don't know. But
Right.
Treebeard does let it all out, doesn't he? He cools himself down.
Yes, he does.
Literally cools himself down.
Nicely done. Yeah, he does that by standing under the rain coming from the spring. And then he laughs and he shakes himself like a wet dog. And then he lays down again and is quiet. Yeah.
What do you make of this bit at the end about drops of water looking like red and green sparks? I mean,
Ooh, like sparks.
Yeah, it's an odd comparison to compare water to sparks, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah. One is almost fiery and the other is
yeah. I mean, is this because he's
like water coming off him like steam, sort of?
maybe? I don't know. He's so hot-headed that it seems, I don't know, like
hot-headed. Check it and see. Sorry, man. I'm just, sorry.
Foreigner, man. Any explanation, I feel like, just is going to sound silly. Like, is it because he's hot-headed? Is it because he's fired up? I mean, these sound like
Drops
ridiculously
fell,
literal.
glittering from the ground.
Yeah.
From him to the ground, they glinted like red and green sparks.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because they're bright. They're glowing. And
yeah, I mean, I can see him being sort of, almost backlit from the lights that are in the little bay area.
I'm imagining him in like a perfume commercial or something. It's all black and white, and he's shaking his branches
like
in the water.
slow motion.
Yeah,
Slow motion.
exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's terrible. Somebody should film that.
Yes.
All right.
Somebody totally should.
So I'm going to go ahead and pick up shortly after that. He's now quiet, but eventually the hobbits hear him sort of making noises again, and then that's where I'm going to pick up.
The trouble is that there are so few of us left.
He said, turning towards the hobbits.
Only 3 remain of the first Ents that walked in the woods before the darkness. Only myself, Fangorn, and Finglas and Fladriv, to give them their elvish names. You may call them Leaflock and Skinbark, if you like that better. And of us 3, Leaflock and Skinbark are not much use for this business. Leaflock has grown sleepy, almost treeish, you might say. He is taken to standing by himself, half asleep all through the summer, with the deep grass of the meadows round his knees. Covered with leafy hair he is. He used to rouse up in winter, but of late he has been too drowsy to walk far, even then. Skinbark lived on the mountain slopes west of Isengard. That is where the worst trouble has been. He was wounded by the orcs, and many of his folk and his tree herds have been murdered and destroyed. He has gone up into the high places, among the birches that he loves best, and he will not come down. Still, I dare say I could get together a fair company of our younger folks, if I could make them understand the need, if I could rouse them. We are not a hasty folk. What a pity there are so few of us.
Why are there so few when you've lived in this country so long? Asked Pippin. Have a great many died?
Oh, no,
Said Treebeard.
none have died from inside, as you might say. Some have fallen in the evil chances of the long years, of course, and more have grown treeish. But there were never many of us, and we have not increased. There have been no entings, no children, you would say, not for a terrible long count of years. You see, we lost the Entwives.
How very sad, said Pippin. How was it that they all died?
They did not die.
Said Treebeard.
I never said died. We lost them, I said. We lost them, and we cannot find them.
He sighed.
I thought most folk knew that. There were songs about the hunt of the Ents for the Entwives, sung among elves and men from Mirkwood to Gondor. They cannot be quite forgotten.
Maybe they can. It's the sad thing.
Maybe they can.
Yeah.
Going back to the beginning, Treebeard counts to 3 on his fingers, like the Count in Sesame Street. Fangorn, Finglas, Fladriv, That was terrible, I'm sorry.
I love it, though. That's awesome. The Count, man. He was great.
Love the Count.
Mm-hmm.
So these new names, Finglas and Fladriv, these names are translated in the nomenclature. So Tolkien tells us that Finglas is basically just translated as leaflock, exactly as it's translated here. Fing means lock of hair, and then las means leaf.
Like in Legolas. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, Legolas, green leaf. Fladriv is, he does tell us in the nomenclature that skinbark is a translation of Fladriv, but he doesn't actually break down the elements of the word. I've seen it speculated online that flad probably means skin, and then riv means bark.
It's fair.
But it's not actually specifically stated by Tolkien himself. I probably should point out, if people can hear us, hear the way that I've said it, hear the way that you said it when you did the reading, the final F in Fladriv is pronounced like a V. It's voiced.
Right. It's voiced.
Tolkien actually called that out in Appendix E to Lord of the Rings. So it is Fladriv with a voiced final consonant, not Fladrif.
That's right.
And I also think it's interesting that all their names have a similar structure to Treebeard's name, right? So all of them are named after a part of a tree and a part of the body, right?
Right. Hair, leaf, skin, bark.
Yeah. This is interesting. They also all start with F in Sindarin. I don't think that's significant in any way, but funny enough.
It's alliterative.
It is. Yeah. I think that's it. It makes it all sound very musical. It's not like all Ents are given F names in Sindarin, because we're going to meet one soon who does not.
That's true.
It is interesting that these 3 guys all do.
And then he points out that those 3, they are the last of the OG Ents. I mean, they go way back, but it's just them. All the rest are more recent. And they're not exactly in great fighting shape.
No, they're a bit like Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon. It's, they're getting too old for this stuff.
That's great. Yeah.
So Leaflock, or Finglas, is gotten sleepy. He's treeish. He doesn't really walk far. He's got this crick in his leg. He can't really walk like he used to. Poor Skinbark, or Flodriv, he's actually suffered some kind of wound in battle with the orcs. And he's just gone into hiding in the high places. And he will not come out for anything.
No, it's a little, I mean, honestly, it looks like some post-traumatic stress disorder here. I mean,
I think you're probably right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
he's seen so many of his people killed that he wants nothing more to do with this. He doesn't.
I think you're right
want to
about
be
that.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very sad. But Treebeard says, look, we can get some of the youth, quite literally the millennials, as they've probably been around for millennia. And maybe I've earned a little bit of respect back from the millennials that I bashed for a half dozen episodes in season 1.
That's pretty awesome.
No.
Yeah, maybe I could get some of those guys, but, you know, I have to make them understand the need, right? I mean, none of us are hasty.
Well, especially those young guys, you know.
It's going to take some convincing.
Yes, it will. But Pippin has the obvious question. I don't understand. I mean, sure, I understand that there's only 3 of you really old ones, but why aren't there more of these younger ones if you've been here so long? And Treebeard explains, look, it's not death like you would think of death.
Right. Right. I mean, some have been killed. You know, some have fallen in the evil chances, he says.
Right.
But then a lot more of them have just become tree-ish over time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's happened to a lot of them. But the real problem is that there have been no Entings for a long time because they lost the Entwives.
And I love the way he says it. We've lost them. I mean, he's literally saying it.
Yeah.
As he means it, we've misplaced them. We've lost them. We don't know where they went.
Pippin assumes this means what all of us would assume this means.
Right. Which that they've died.
Yeah.
But boy, Treebeard emphatically, no, they're not dead, you idiot. We've lost them.
Like, I didn't know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
They did not die. I never said died. You fool of a toque.
Poor Pippin, man.
I know.
Faux pas. He had no idea.
I think he needs to get snarky right back and say, well, have you checked the couch cushions? I mean, have you looked in the back seat of the car? The glove box, maybe? I mean, what do you mean you've lost them?
Right.
They're big, presumably. How did you lose them?
They're creatures with their own sentience. At least they were last you checked.
Well,
how do you lose somebody who doesn't want to be lost?
Oh, my goodness. Ouch.
But yeah, it's interesting. And then Treebeard, of course, like, you know, well, I thought everybody knew that. You know, the songs. What about the songs? Don't you remember the songs?
They were in the top 40 forever. I mean, you couldn't turn the radio station without hearing that song on.
And Mary's like, songs? What songs? What are you talking about, man? We don't get that station in the Shire.
No.
Can you at least tell us a little bit more? Maybe sing one of these songs.
Hum a few bars, yeah.
Right.
So Treebeard agrees to tell them, but with modifications, right? You know, look, I can't tell it properly because we've got to go and call a council, but I'll give you a little bit of the story.
And they are young people. You know, you can't tell them everything about the Entwives.
Well, no, you can't. No, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Can't tell them all about that. No. I don't know if they've had that talk about the
Birches and the Beeches.
The Birches and the Beeches. That's right. But then that's when he starts his strange and sad story, and it's where I'm going to have you pick up.
All right.
It is rather a strange and sad story,
he went on after a pause.
When the world was young, and the woods were wide and wild, the Ents and the Entwives, and there were Ent maidens then, the loveliness of Fimbrethil, of Wandlin the light-footed, in the days of our youth. They walked together, and they housed together, but our hearts did not go on growing in the same way. The Ents gave their love to things that they met in the world, and the Entwives gave their thought to other things. For the Ents loved the great trees, and the wild woods, and the slopes of the high hills, and they drank of the mountain streams, and ate only such fruit as the trees let fall in their path. And they learned of the elves, and spoke with the trees. But the Entwives gave their minds to the lesser trees, and to the meads and the sunshine beyond the feet of the forests. And they saw the sloe in the thicket, and the wild apple and the cherry blossoming in spring, and the green herbs in the waterlands in summer, and the seeding grasses in the autumn fields. They did not desire to speak with these things, but they wished them to hear and obey what was said to them. The Entwives ordered them to grow according to their wishes, and bear leaf and fruit to their liking. For the Entwives desired order, and plenty, and peace, by which they meant that things should remain where they had set them. So the Entwives made gardens to live in, but we Ents went on wandering, and we only came to the gardens now and again. Then, when the darkness came in the north, the Entwives crossed the great river and made new gardens and tilled new fields, and we saw them more seldom. After the darkness was overthrown, the land of the Entwives blossomed richly, and their fields were full of corn. Many men learned the crafts of the Entwives and honored them greatly, but we were only a legend to them, a secret in the heart of the forest.
That is a strange and sad story.
Quite. Let's start with Fimbrethil, as we're talking about it. Also known as Wandlim. But, unlike the other Ent names we've just talked about, Tolkien says in the nomenclature that Wandlim is not a translation of her Sindarin name. Fimbrethil is actually translated a couple of different ways in different sources. I'm going to go with Appendix E, because that's in the book we're talking about.
Right.
There it's translated as Slender Beech. Basically, Fim means slender, and then Brethil means beech. There are other interpretations. In the Silmarillion, Christopher Tolkien says that Brethil means silver birch, and so this would mean something more like slender birch, if that's correct. In Parma Eldalambron 17, you knew I was going to come to that one eventually.
I knew you were, yeah, because I couldn't look it up for you.
Yeah, in Parma Eldalambron, the professor himself translates it as slim birch, so he goes with the birch thing there. Either way.
I knew a guy named Slim Birch.
That's
He
hilarious.
was a good shot,
I love it.
Slim Birch.
I love it. Oh, man. Some long, tall cowboy
Right,
guy. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So, Slim Beech, Slim Birch, something like that. Close enough for government work, I suppose.
Fair enough. I like the alliteration here right after that. When the world was young and the woods were wide and wild. I dig that. And even right after that, there's still more. Ents and Entwives and Ent maidens.
Yeah.
Not to mention the names he drops from his black book, by the way. Well, the name, Fimbrethil, Wandlim, is the same person. Yeah.
Yeah, she was, she lived with him and everything. She was his Entwife, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, you picked up on the alliteration. I was just thinking about the Rush song. When our weary world was young.
Yeah.
Struggle of the ancients first began.
Yeah.
Cygnus X1, Book 2, Hemispheres. Man.
Boy, that is old school.
Oh, yeah.
What
How
is it,
long would it
20
take Treebeard to sing that song? Right. It's like 18 minutes long.
Oh, man. Ent prog rock. That's a problem.
Yeah.
We're on the 7th vinyl now. First track is almost over.
Every song would be hours
At least
and hours
one
of
vinyl.
hours.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah. That is hilarious. And then, I love this, he discusses the difference in their passions and interests.
Yeah. They just kind of grew apart, didn't they?
They did,
He talks
didn't
about
they?
how Ents love the great trees, the wild woods, the high hills. They love the elves. They love speaking with the trees. They love wandering. They're shepherds, right? It's this kind of nomadic pastoral life that he's describing.
Very much so. But the Entwives, on the other hand, they don't really love the great trees. They love the lesser trees, really shrubs even, and meads and blossoming trees, grasses and herbs. And they don't really want to speak with the trees, do they? They want to speak to these things and be obeyed. I mean, kind of reading between the lines, you can see what Treebeard's saying,
Fangorn was a rolling stone. The Entwives wanted to settle down.
That's about right. That is about right. But boy, this parenthetical is really telling, right? When he talks about that the Entwives desired order and plenty and peace. And that's not a problem. It's good to have order. It's good to have plenty. It's good to have peace. But then he says, by which they meant that things should remain where they had set them.
Ouch.
How many times was Fangorn told he left something in the wrong place, man?
Ouch. How many times was he accused of coming home too late, being out with the
yeah.
boys all night long? I mean, honestly, Treebeard, maybe they just got tired of you never coming home at night.
Maybe.
You know,
Maybe.
They're sick of your stupid poker nights. And they just Thelma and Louised out of there. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, man. Terrible. Terrible, yeah. And drove right off into the Deadlands, yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, he is really critical here. And
he is.
We have to remember, we're only getting his side of this story. I have to point that out. I mean,
that's true.
I think to a certain extent, I think they just grew apart. You know,
Clearly, the different interests.
They're interested in opposite things.
Yeah.
The Ents are all about, I mean, they're shepherds. They're going to wander.
Yeah.
And they want to get to know their flock. Whereas the Entwives are horticulturalists. They want to grow, and they want to
make a garden
and settle down. And it's kind of funny. It's also really, really sad, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That they just grew apart.
Both, isn't it? Yeah.
Because you see this in humans sometimes too, don't you? You see people just grow apart, and they just don't have whatever they once had. And it's a sad thing.
It is. It is. Yeah.
But, you know, Treebeard says, you know, when the darkness came, and this is the first darkness, right? This is Morgoth, not Sauron.
Yeah. The great darkness. Yeah.
He says the Entwives moved on.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't gone. They were just further away. They had moved to the next town. Ents only came to visit now and again.
Yeah.
We all know long distance relationships are tough to keep going.
That is true. Mm-hmm.
And but also, this is also really interesting. After the defeat of Morgoth, the gardens blossomed, and then men learned of the Entwives, and actually men knew about them. Men actually, men actually learned from them and honored them. But the Ents were just this mystery, just this legend in the forests.
The legend
of the Ents
is way past.
Was way past due.
You knew that was coming.
Yeah,
I'm glad you could read my mind, man. I find that interesting because what does that mean the Entwives said about the Ents? Virtually nothing.
Yeah.
They could have told them all about the Ents and said, you should go find them and they can teach you about this, that, and the other thing, but they clearly never did.
But why? I mean, what would men learn from them? I mean, maybe men could learn
how to herd trees. I mean, yeah, you're right.
Maybe men could learn how to, be better stewards of their natural resources. Maybe
it's kind of an abstract skill. It's not.
It is. As opposed to agriculture,
growing corn, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Tilling fields and things like that. Yeah, that's a good point.
It says a lot about men, though, because this is sort of the Entwives apparently had a role in early civilization, right? Teaching men to grow crops, and so men learned from them. Men managed to become more like them in some ways, I'm sure, but probably more alien from the Ents.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm going to pick up right after that. And finish up tonight's reading, and leaving us, a couple more episodes on this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was long ago, in the time of the war between Sauron and the Men of the Sea. Desire came over me to see Fimbrethil again. Very fair she was still in my eyes when I had last seen her, though little like the Ent maiden of old, for the Entwives were bent and browned by their labor, their hair parched by the sun to the hue of ripe corn, and their cheeks like red apples. Yet their eyes were still the eyes of our own people. We crossed over Anduin and came to their land, but we found a desert. It was all burned and uprooted, for war had passed over it. But the Entwives were not there. Long we called, and long we searched, and we asked all folk that we met which way the Entwives had gone. Some said they had never seen them, and some said that they had seen them walking away west, and some said east, and others south. But nowhere that we went could we find them. Our sorrow was very great. Yet the wild wood called, and we returned to it. For many years we used to go out every now and again and look for the Entwives, walking far and wide and calling them by their beautiful names. But as time passed, we went more seldom and wandered less far. And now the Entwives are only a memory for us, and our beards are long and gray. The elves made many songs concerning the search of the Ents, and some of the songs passed into the tongues of men. But we made no songs about it, being content to chant their beautiful names when we thought of the Entwives. We believe that we may meet again in the time to come, and perhaps we shall find somewhere a land where we can live together and both be content. But it is foreboded that that will only be when we have both lost all that we now have. And it may well be that that time is drawing near at last, for if Sauron of old destroyed the gardens, the enemy today seems likely to wither all the woods.
Wow.
Oh, heartbreaking.
This is poignant.
Yeah. You just hear the pain in his voice as he's recalling this.
Well, all the more so because, the passage I read, that could be a history lesson. He's talking about the Ents did this, the Entwives did that.
Right.
There's a degree of separation there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even though he lived it. I mean, he is describing his experience.
True.
But this is a very personal experience.
Yeah,
this is his own story.
Personal.
This is his own memory about wanting to see his wife again.
Yeah.
And this was still a very long time ago. So he says this was during the war between Sauron and the Men of the Sea. So, of course, that's the Númenóreans. Right. I'm thinking this means the war after the Númenóreans came back. So Elendil, the Battle of the Last Alliance and all that.
Yep. That's exactly what this is.
I'm thinking this is not the earlier ones when the Númenóreans came here and captured him. But it's still like 3,000 years ago, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Second Age 3429 is when that started.
Yeah, so 3441. Yep.
Right. So then we get the description of the older Entwives, the physical description of how they've changed over the years in terms of being out in the sun and doing all their gardening.
Yeah.
And so he's expecting to see these older Entwives. He knows they don't get any younger. And they cross the Anduin only to find a desert and no Entwives. They're gone. They're all gone. There's no sign of them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they go on this long search. They start asking people where they've gone. Some people say west, some say east, some say south. Nobody said north based on this.
Yeah, I find that interesting. Yeah.
That is interesting. I mean, north was formerly the direction of evil. But, I mean, by this time, no, right? This is long, long ago. I mean, but by now, east is more the direction of evil because that's where Mordor is. So
right.
I wonder why nobody said north. I don't know.
I guess they didn't want to get tangled up in Mirkwood, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. But their sorrow was great,
Oh, yeah.
And so eventually they gave up. They returned to the wild woods, which is where they love. I mean,
the wild woods.
I guess they've still got that.
Yeah. It's interesting, though. It's sort of like, well, we were looking, but then this thing that we care about maybe a little bit more called us.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And you sort of see this.
It's not that they go back there.
And
yeah, you're right. It's not that they go back there to seek solace from what they've lost. It's, well, the wood is calling. We got to go.
Yeah, that's where we belong. I mean, there's still that sense of this is where we belong. And
they just grew apart. They just totally grew apart. They were not compatible anymore. And
no, it's heartbreaking.
I mean, and honestly, look at the description of the Entwives later on. All the comparisons are not to trees, but to food crops, things you'd find in a garden or an orchard. Apples, corn.
Mm-hmm.
It just strikes me that the Entwives have just changed in their own way. They've grown less tree-ish.
Right.
And they've grown more like other types of plants. And the Ents have grown more tree-ish over time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just not right for each other anymore. And that's incredibly sad.
It is.
But there's, I guess, sort of an inevitability then to the Ents going back. You know what? Hey, the wild woods are calling. This is what we love, and we're going to go do that.
Yeah, especially now that the Entwives are gone.
Yeah.
And they would continue the search over time. They would go out and keep searching. Yeah. But every time they searched, it would be a little less far and a little less often.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that speaks volumes too. They've just stopped
looking.
growing more passionate about missing them. They're growing less passionate about it.
They're getting used to it. They're just dealing with it. Yeah.
To the point where it becomes just a memory.
Yeah. They're not even making songs of them.
No.
You know, the elves made songs. Some of the songs ended up in the tongues of men.
Sure.
The hobbits still swear they haven't heard them.
Right.
But the Ents don't write any songs about them.
No,
They're
all they do is maybe chant the names, yeah.
I love that. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, I wish there were more of the names here. That would be nice.
I know. And especially because, you know, for Ents, names are stories, right?
Yes, they are. So they'd be very long names. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do love, though, this sort of, I don't know, end times sort of thing. The belief in a future meeting.
This is very apocalyptic, this idea.
It is, that they would find a place that we'd both be content living in the same place. You know, it wasn't that they didn't care about each other. It was they didn't feel at home in the same space.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a place where we could. Yeah.
But it is apocalyptic because it's only going to be after we've each lost everything.
Oh, I know. Oh, man, that's heavy.
Yeah.
But as Treebeard points out, look, truth of the matter is that could be happening right now. I mean, Sauron, you know, he took out the gardens last time. He's going to wither all the woods now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wither all the woods. I love that. It's such
such a line.
It's such an Entish expression for something apocalyptic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the Entwives next time, but why don't we talk a little bit about their fate or their possible fate or what we know about their fate, which we've talked about before, and it's not going to make anybody happy. It's certainly not going to make Treebeard happy.
No, let's not tell him. I don't want him coming after me.
No. But we do have some of Tolkien's own thoughts on what happened with the Entwives.
Right.
So first, in letter number 144 to Naomi Mitchison, Tolkien said, I think that in fact the Entwives had disappeared for good, being destroyed with their gardens in the War of the Last Alliance, Second Age 3429 to 3441, like we said.
Right. Mm-hmm.
When Sauron pursued a scorched earth policy and burned their land against the advance of the Allies down the Anduin. They survived only in the agriculture transmitted to men and hobbits. Some, of course, may have fled east or even have become enslaved. Tyrants, even in such tales, must have an economic and agricultural background to their soldiers and metalworkers. If any survived so, they would indeed be far estranged from the Ents, and any rapprochement would be difficult, unless experience of industrialized and militarized agriculture had made them a little more anarchic. I hope so. I don't know.
And so we can pin our hopes, I guess, on the I don't know. But he thinks they're gone, and so do we. But in letter number 338, he was answering the question, very obvious question, did the Ents ever find the Entwives? And he said this, as for the Entwives, I do not know. But I think it is plain that there would be for Ents no reunion in history. But Ents and their wives, being rational creatures, would find some earthly paradise until the end of this world, beyond which the wisdom neither of elves nor Ents could see. Though maybe they shared the hope of Aragorn, that they were not bound forever to the circles of the world, and beyond it is more than memory.
I like that thought.
Nice. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Well, the good news, folks, is it is not foreboded that you will have to lose all that you have now before we get to Barliman's bag.
Thankfully.
And even more good news, when that's done, the talk will still continue all night long at the Prancing Pony.
Oh, it sure does. Our awesome listener community keeps the conversation going in all of our social media spaces. At our common room on Facebook, you're going to find comments, questions, corrections, and more on every episode, as well as updates from us throughout the week. Just look for the Prancing Pony Podcast on Facebook.
And be sure to follow the page and join the group that we've recently created. Now, the page, it's been around forever, lets us keep you up to date on the latest PPP happenings, like our digital moot later this year, while the group gives you a great chance to discuss Tolkien with your fellow listeners. And, of course, we also have some really good discussions going on over on Reddit. You can find us there at r/PrancingPonyPod.
And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both with the handle @PrancingPonyPod. And if you're enjoying the show, please share us and consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts.
And if you want exclusive content like postscripts, full bonus episodes, live Discord events with Sean and me, or episodes without digital ads, then check out patreon.com/PrancingPonyPod, where you can support the show by joining the Fellowship of the Podcast. Now, let's see what messages Barliman has brought us. Sean, what do you have?
All right. Well, Danny I wrote in to ask, if some of the trees in Fangorn are getting Entish, why is the concern over the missing Entwives so acute? It sounds like the Ents might have a form of asexual reproduction. I suppose a more accurate metaphor might be something from biological engineering. available for increasing the Ent population. Why not encourage the trees that are getting Entish to commit and go all the way, thereby creating a surplus population? And actually, Danny continues, given what I know of arboreal reproductive techniques, not much, mind you, you would think there would be more interesting forms of reproduction available to Ents. That is, some kind of grafting. That is undoubtedly taking speculation too far, though.
Yeah, speculation and jokes. I mean, I think we could probably come up with a lot of jokes on this.
And probably some of them will go too far.
Probably some of them will go too far. Yeah, absolutely. Taking speculation and jokes too far. It's what we do.
It is.
And we'll probably get to those, but on the serious answer first, my first thought is that Ents are, of course, not trees. They are no more trees than shepherds or sheep. Now, they may be like the trees, just like sheep become like their shepherds. And that explains why Ents are getting like trees and why some trees may be, in fact, be growing Entish. But those trees that are becoming Entish aren't actually becoming Ents. They're just becoming Ent-like trees.
Yeah.
Then the Ents that are becoming tree-ish aren't becoming trees. They're just becoming
tree-like Ents.
Tree-like, right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, look, I think the real answer, not that we can't come up with some really hilariously inappropriate ones, is that Ents don't reproduce with pollen or like trees. The fact is that when a daddy ant and a mommy ant love each other very much.
Stop.
Oh, darn it.
Stop.
I wanted to get that one in there.
Nope. And let's not have any more talk of the Ents talking the trees into going all the way, please.
Oh, I know. Seriously. I don't think that was quite what they had in mind. No.
Probably not, but man, I have to admit that.
Oh, chicka wow wow.
Yeah. With Ents.
Oh.
Bow chicka wow wow.
Well, at least he takes a long time.
Oh, man, well done. That's right. That is, we don't do anything.
Don't be hasty.
No.
All right. Let's stop.
Good.
I must admit that despite being the owner of a well-loved copy of Flora of Middle-earth, I don't know really anything about arboreal reproduction, and you can't prove anything from my search history.
You're using ExpressVPN, are you?
That's right. I agree with you, though. I think Ents are Ents and trees are trees. And so I just assume that Ents, how would Tolkien put it, multiplied after the manner of the children of Iluvatar. Let's just leave it that way right there. Let's leave it there. And I think you're right. No matter how
like making entings.
Oh, man, that's great.
Oh, sorry.
All right. No, I think that no matter how Entish a tree gets, it's still not going to be an Ent. It's going to be a tree.
Right.
And I think vice versa. No matter how tree-ish an Ent gets, it's still going to be an Ent.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't believe all that, Danny talks about biological engineering, and I think what Danny's talking about are asexual propagation techniques like cutting, grafting, layering, budding, and other things that I just learned about on Wikipedia today.
Good for you. Yeah.
But that I think would probably be familiar to any horticulturists out there. Here's the thing. Ents are not horticulturists. They're shepherds. Right. Horticulture was the domain of the Entwives, not the Ents, which we discussed earlier. And I don't really have any reason to believe that Ents would have any knowledge of those kinds of techniques. So
no, I don't think so.
I think all they've got is making Entings the old-fashioned way, which is more fun anyway.
Well, that's true, and it's going to be really tough to do now with the Entwives gone.
Exactly, unless after a few thousand years of further depopulation, maybe life finds a way. And some of the male Ents turn into Entwives. But if that doesn't happen, I think this is pretty much it.
Yeah, probably.
Well, do we have time for another one?
I think we do. Brendan D. asks, I've been listening to the audiobook of The Two Towers for the first time after having once read it many years ago. And after listening to so many of your episodes, I'm beginning to see so much more of the humor and beauty in Tolkien's words. That's because there's very little in our words. One particular moment that made me legitimately laugh out loud was when Treebeard is very surprised that the hobbits don't sleep standing up. What made me laugh is that moments before, Treebeard had been laying down in his bed and got all worked up about Saruman, bringing him to the point of wanting to take action. Does lying down have the opposite effect on Ents as it does on people? Rather than relaxing them, maybe it gets them tired and agitated? Love to hear your thoughts. Oh, what do you think, Sean?
Honestly, I'm still kind of gobsmacked that Treebeard has a bed in the first place, regardless of what happens to him when he gets in it. I mean, part of me wants to point out that Tolkien's just kind of having some fun here. There's the idea that, a tree's natural resting position is standing up.
Well,
so
the only position it has, yeah.
Naturally,
that's also
yes.
its working position and its playing position and its
fair enough.
Eating position, yeah.
Fair enough. But I think, that's it. That's how trees are.
Yeah.
That's what trees do. They stand up. So I think that's where Tolkien's just having a little fun with Treebeard's surprise at hobbits sleeping on their backs. It's just a way of reminding us, hey, Ents are really different from every other humanoid creature you know.
Different, yeah.
But then on top of that, we see Treebeard has a bed, which is kind of weird.
That is weird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's what gets him agitated, though, right? I mean, I don't think lying down is what gets him fired up.
No, I don't think so. I mean, it is true that Treebeard got agitated about Saruman while lying down, but honestly, that seems coincidental to me. A few paragraphs later, after he realizes just how hasty he's become, what does he do? He goes to the archway and stands in the waterfall. Then he laughs and comes back and laid himself on the bed again and was silent.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Here then, is the bed what helps him be silent? No, I think in this case, a bed is just a bed. We can also recall last episode when Treebeard talked about laying down specifically in order to calm himself down, to prevent the Ent draft from going to his head.
That's true.
Since trees feed via capillary action, lying down would slow that progress.
Totally agree. Yeah, I mean, what gets Treebeard agitated is not lying down. It's the talk of Saruman.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we see exactly why that happens. I mean, if the three of them had been hanging out talking about something else, like, I don't know, just, trees down the road or talking about Fimbrethil, I don't think Treebeard would have gotten excited. Well, maybe a little excited talking about Fimbrethil.
Maybe. I think so. Well, folks, that wraps it up for another episode of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Please, though, be sure to join us again next week when Treebeard sings a duet by himself.
Now, that's really sad.
It is.
That's kind of dark, man.
Yeah, well, I go there. That's what I do.
You do. But, folks, we want to take a moment to thank some really important people. I'm talking about our patrons at the Cure Dance contribution tier. They are DeMay in Alaska, James in Virginia, Tamsin in Minnesota, Chad in Texas, Lance in New Jersey, Paul in Colorado, Jerry in Texas, Bruce in California, Mario in Utah, Seth in Texas, Ella in California, Joseph in Texas, Kathy from North Carolina, Lori from Washington, Josh in Oklahoma, Carlos in California, Brian from the UK, Cameron in Nevada, and Ned from Connecticut. Thank you all so much for your support.
And we also want to thank the team that helps make this show better. Our research assistants, along with our Barliman, Becca Davis, producer Jordan Rennells, social media manager Casey Hilsey, event and Patreon community coordinator Katie McKenna, and website guru Phil Dean.
This show would not be what it is without our supporters and our teammates, so thank you all. Now, be sure you don't miss any episodes of the Prancing Pony Podcast. Subscribe to the show through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And one last thing as always, don't forget to send your thoughts, comments, and most of all, where you've seen the Entwives to Barliman at theprancingponypodcast.com.
Barliman's a whole lot more reliable these days than he used to be, but we do get a lot of mail, so we'll get to you as soon as we can, and your question or comment may be featured on a future episode.
Now, as always, this has been far too short a time to spend among such excellent and admirable listeners. But until next time.
Farewell, friends.